Cho! Hey, welcome back, Mere Immortalites out there to another edition of the Mere Immortals podcast. We got Meanderings today, a chance for us to philosophize out of the park. Once again, it is raining behind us. You've got the man Juan on this side, angry for a couple of reasons, but you'll hear about why that is.
Dios mío. Oh my God.
Indeed, and you got Saitama himself, Kyrin down.
I'm on the other side here. Yes.
Now, straight into it, Meanderings. We're just going to talk things about the past in our mind, and I've got to get this off my chest.
Okay.
I shared it already on my social media,
Yep.
and Kyrin has seen this, and perhaps others out there have seen it as well. Coffee Club, first of all, I hate you. That's what I'm saying. If you ever come to me wanting sponsorship through this podcast, I will refuse it vehemently. I will never take it. But no, they just, once again,
we can offer you anti-sponsorships.
Anti-sponsorship.
We'll talk shit
I
about
will.
you.
Yeah, exactly. You'll have to pay me so I don't talk shit about you. Just in short, once again, to give you by the facts, I put my order there with my sister. We went this morning as a part of our monthly catch-ups, just to catch up and try to be a little bit more brotherly and sisterly. I put the order on the QR code, and I've got in my email, I can confirm it, at 9:51 in the morning.
Okay.
The coffee that my sister had ordered came to her at roughly 10:20. And
Wait, is that, should I laugh at that? I don't know how long coffees
look, that's
take.
okay. It was busy. It was like semi-busy. The food that came, the coffee that she ordered was a Piccolo. Now, Piccolo, for those who don't know, is a little bit of coffee.
That's from Dragon Ball Z.
Exactly, green.
It's green.
So it's a little bit of coffee.
It's like a green tea.
A little bit of coffee, a little bit of milk. She had almond milk, and it's in a little cup. That's what it is. Easy. Everybody knows it. It came out as coffee, and what I would imagine, it's either him spitting onto the cup or like a blubber of milk, like literally a skimming of milk. My coffee was fine. I went up there and I sort of asked him, hey, this is not a Piccolo. I don't know what this is, but it's not a Piccolo. Now, the man behind the counter who was doing the coffee, he said, well, there's two ways to do a Piccolo.
Okay.
Incorrect, folks. What he actually made was called the macchiato, but incorrect. So that's not how you do a Piccolo. So I was like, anyways, they got it out. Now, fast forward, it was 10:45. So almost an hour since I ordered. We ordered the exact same food. Hers came out, looked terrible. I posted it, looked like a pile of garbage. No forks, no nothing, so might as well start eating with our hands. It was cold. Waited 5 more minutes. My food hadn't come out. Went up and checked in. Oops, they hadn't made my meal. It took them 3 minutes after that to make the meal. So, we went for about an hour. Once the meal came out, we ate it quickly. It was barely like any trace because we got like eggs Benny with salmon. Barely any salmon in it. Eggs were crap. Ate it quickly, and it was just like cool. And the only time that they said apologies for any of that was right at the end as we were leaving, when they said like, "Oh, apologies for the wait." But again, all this messing around, and I was mentioning to you,
apologies for even coming here.
I know, apologies for coming. I should have apologized for coming. Good. But the final thing that I was saying to you as a little kicker was that I wanted to tag them onto Instagram to say like, hey, look, this wasn't on. Couldn't even tag them, obviously, because they're a piece of shit that they just have blocked everything on their socials. I left a comment on the latest Instagram post because it had no comments from anybody. So it's just my comment and somewhat random bot. So I was like, there you go, this is what you get. And then I was going to leave a Google review. Psych, I already left one 11 months ago telling them of how bad of another terrible experience I had. So, and then when I got back to mum and dad's later that morning, we reminisced over another shit experience. I was like, man, you know what, Coffee Club, I'm not coming back. I am not coming back to this. Maybe for a coffee, because they haven't messed up the coffee too badly, but for anything else, would not recommend.
So
have you had an experience like this with food places, like repeatedly that bad?
No, because I don't really eat out that much, and if I do have a bad one, I learn from it.
You're definitely not going back. Yeah,
yeah, I don't. No, I like novelty more in food. So I think in my whole travels across South America, there was probably only 3 or 4 places that I ate at twice, because more for me it was more exciting just to go to other random places and try things out. So even if I got a good one, it was rare for me to hit something again. And yeah, I wouldn't make an ambition to go and hit the same place, which I already went to the extreme. And I would say it's a fairly costly, timely effort to actually leave a review for things, because people tell, I want to do it for some places and I just straight up don't, like, it never happens. And this is like a positive thing. Maybe when you're fueled by hatred, it's you have a bit more energy and whatnot. So.
Yeah, the boundaries are dropped. But anyways, I just wanted to get that off my chest in case, you let me know, Mere Immortalites, if you have any experiences like this, so I can also equally not go to those places ever again. But something shortly after that, which I did enjoy, and something that I was talking to you earlier in the week, because you were like, "Oh, come to me when you've actually done this." So I wanted to. There's a more along the crypto space, Web3 space, and NFT space.
Okay.
I've successfully onboarded another individual into
nice.
the Web3 space. So I was able to get my sister to have her own digital wallet, her own MetaMask, her own NFT, understand Bitcoin. So we talked through the Bitcoin paper.
Yeah.
So as I said, understanding Etherscan, how transactions work, blocks, hashes, all of that.
Okay.
How much do they understand of that? Very little, but we went really, really specific and very niche. It took slightly over an hour for me to be able to explain, show what it meant, with metadata, how the contracts worked, all that. And it was purely just an Ethereum, just on one NFT, just on one particular series of an NFT and what it meant in that regard.
Yeah.
But we focus more on the technology. Now, so I think some aspects of it, and I was showing it to the whole family, some aspects of that I think got through. Some of them I could have explained better. What it helped me to understand was, okay, if I want to create this Web3 sort of conversation piece over the next few months, I went as part of that. Wow, there was a lot of things, themes, and ideas that I was just kind of going off the top of my head. I went, wow, and really need to restructure this or just simplify it a lot more, because I did find myself going into explaining something about culture in this Discord and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and just finding myself like, wow, I could just keep talking about this for a long time, and I don't know if it's valuable for a new joiner, or if it is valuable, or if it actually helps explain things, or it doesn't. Another aspect, I started trying to explain probably for 5 minutes about proof of work and proof of stake.
Okay. And I'm not sure that's necessary.
And I don't, and I go, is it necessary? Because I feel like part of proof of work is really foundational to what it makes it, Bitcoin and everything like that. And then I'm like, well, do you really need to know at the very beginning? So there was this pull and push with it. But it did, so I was successful to do that. It took over an hour, as I say, but it felt good. Felt good to do so. So it was nice to impart that wisdom.
What was the general feeling you got from them? Was it them going, Juan, I don't care about this? Like, were you forcing it upon them? Was there, what was the general reaction to
No, there wasn't any of that. There was the bit, what I would say was the most challenging to explain, was trying to, because even most people in the normal space in the Web 2, it's like on Instagram and everything like that, you have a UI layer, the interface layer, that looks pretty and it's all nice to interact with, but there's things in the back end behind that, right? Like the service calls, there's databases, there's all that. And you as a normal consumer, as a mere mortal, you don't utilize that, so you don't see it. So showing Etherscan, or at least what transactions, blocks, hashes look like in real time, and signing contracts and what the contracts mean, and where, as you know, the whole thing of a picture, is that what an NFT is? Like, no, like the picture of an NFT or the URL that goes to the server that hosts that picture is 1/50th of what an NFT actually is. Like if you actually look at the contract base and everything else that's underneath that. So explaining that was a little bit difficult, because even most people in general don't even know that about Instagram, Facebook, etc. in a normal sort of software internet space. So that bit was difficult, and it took a few questions. The other one, actually, which was brought up by Dad, was he was trying to explain to the family and generalize it. He was trying to immortalize it as well in a playback, and he was trying to compare. He was like, Bitcoin and Ethereum and Cardano and all this. He was like, try to think about it, like he was saying to the family. Try to think about this like banks, like that's Combank or that's ANZ. And then I was like, no, it wouldn't be. That's not like that, because they're not centralized in that way. Some of them are not owned, but like say governed by a particular centralized body. But I was saying, think about it more like digital currencies, like a currency that isn't like particularly owned by someone and you can interact with. That one, I still don't know how I would probably equally explain it in a very simplistic term, like how you would say to somebody what Matic is and Ethereum is and Dogecoin is and all that, and comparing it back to a current usability sort of experience, and removing whatever aspect is that doesn't make it that. So there's a little bit of thinking in my mind that I was like, okay, that was a good question by Dad, or attempt to try and generalize it. And my kind of attempt was, well, more think about it like Bitcoin is the US dollar, and Ethereum is the British dollar, and Cardano is the Australian dollar, but they're not government tied. They're just decentralized in their own ways. There's differences to that still, but that was probably the harder piece as well.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
But it was interesting. Like, it was a really interesting thing. I'm going to do it again with a significant other, which will be fun to do, because there might be more understanding or other questions. And I think in those 2 attempts, I hopefully will find what I can probably how I structure some of the conversations in the Web3 space that I want to be doing. At the same time, at the very tail end of that conversation with the family, I got to share like, okay, now that I've shown you what an NFT is and the digital wallet, basically for the podcast that we're talking about right now, when you send Satoshis to somebody, it's the exact same wallet, but just using the blockchain of Bitcoin and Satoshis and using the Lightning Network. And the main concept that I was trying to explain was it's the technology of you've got a website and you've got another website and you've got an application and that wallet and the ability to connect with them quite quickly utilizing that wallet rather than an intermediary. That's kind of like the good stuff that's being used there. And so that kind of got to them a bit more of understanding like, oh, okay, I kind of understand what sending Satoshis means. But there would have to be like an extra, maybe half an hour conversation just on that. So
yeah,
it then made me, I guess, think about for all, the mere mortalites out there, perhaps even when we're saying it, it's just still flying way over people's heads unless you're in the space.
Yeah. Well, okay, so here's a couple of reactions to that. One is I'm reading the Bitcoin Standard at the moment by Saifedean Ammous. Very good for I'm still I won't give away too much, but like the first initial thing is I'm 100 pages in and he's mentioned BTC maybe 4 times.
Cool.
So,
that's good.
So it's a lot about what actually is money, like starting off with what money is and the gold standard.
Good, because you need to know that, because I think that's like foundational pieces of knowledge.
For sure. So that's very cool, but it's basically, it's giving me some more rethoughts of how I understand things as well. And so from this, I'm sort of almost getting to the point where it's like, I don't even know how much I would bother trying to explain. Like, I definitely wouldn't even bother proof of stake and proof of work to a newbie. No way. Like, no way would I think that's necessary. No way would I think anything but the basic. This is different, and I would definitely make sure to not use bank analogies as well, and say this is what this is like. I'd maybe try and just say like, okay, like this is a completely new thing. Here's a couple of things that this can do that solve some problems in the world. If you want to know more, you're gonna have to do the work on your own, because the way that you understand it is going to be different for everyone. And this has sort of been reinforced as well. That and I know people. I said, "Oh, Kyrin, he's not going to talk about crypto." So, oh, get off my back! Get off my back! It's just I'm phasing it out gradually. Okay,
gradually.
And so, and check out the monthly goals that was just released last week, and you'll see how I'm doing that as well. And basically, I went to a Latino meetup event here in Brisbane, the first one, which was very cool.
Well, a Latino crypto event.
Latino crypto event, yes. Good clarification. And in particular, it was pretty much just it was explaining, okay, like, I don't think a single thing other than BTC was mentioned, which I thought was very good on their parts. Like that's the one to start with, and I don't think it's even really worth for a beginner knowing about anything else yet.
Begin with SafeMoon.
And what was really cool about that was seeing it through the lens of a completely different eyes. For one thing, it was all in Spanish, so. Thankfully, my Spanish is good that I can understand 95% of what they're saying, and they're not even using words like cadena de bloques, which means chain of blocks. They just say blockchain. So,
cool.
there's lots of lingo which, if you try to say like what is a fractionalized asset or something in Spanish, I would probably struggle to know how to. I don't know how to say that. Fraccionalizado or something.
Fraccionizado.
Or una fracción de, and I don't know how to say asset una cosa. So that was good, but it was really what they emphasized, which was there was a lot of Venezuelans in the audience. There was a lot of Colombians. There was a lot of I know those two. There was definitely
others, maybe
chunks of those, and then I imagine there'd be like an Argentinian here and there. There was probably about mid-20s all up.
Okay.
And what they emphasized, which made complete sense, was
inflation.
Inflation. Here is how these things can, and also I suppose like the uncorruptibility of them in certain respects. So yes, there's scams, but if you're using the protocols, this is why you can be more assured of a promise from the DAI stablecoin than you can be of your local politician. Now, as we've seen with like Luna and Terra, bad things can happen.
Exactly,
even if stuff's written in code, bad things can happen. So you need to still watch yourself. But the questions that the people were asking were very different than I feel. There was the sort of things like, look, I'm a chef and I also do Uber, and I don't have huge amounts of disposable income. So this isn't like I can kind of gamble on this thing. It was more real in a sense. It was more, okay, what can you say to prove to me that this isn't just a random stonk that I'm adding to my stonk list? Because probably a bunch of them don't have huge amount of assets already in these locations. So it was really refreshing, actually, just seeing the explanations through a different set of eyes and being like, oh, okay, where the emphasis is different, almost reaffirming again why I initially got into this, which was not related anything to price, was not related anything to even particularly the technologies itself. It was more, okay, this is how it can help Africa. This is how it can help Argentina. And there's that was really cool. So, but once again, their emphasis for the newbie was completely different. And so this is where it's like, you really need to know your audience when you're trying to explain these type of things.
Yeah, well, and so like here's another tidbit that was on top of my mind that I forgot to say. So like, let's say I specifically didn't go down the path too much of cryptocurrencies, so I wanted to onboard into NFTs. So I spent a bit more time on NFTs and what they meant.
Just remind me to come back to that currency aspect.
Yeah. So, but then from the NFT perspective, one of the things that we were saying was like, at least for me and maybe people who have been in the space now, or just pick whatever space you've been in for a long time, you can really easily tell scams. You can really easily tell, okay, that person's trying to like take money from me, or that's fake. As soon as my sister got the NFT and went into the Discord channel, and I was just to share it around, immediately she got three fake messages.
Yeah.
She had messages coming in being like, oh, here's a mint or whatever. I had to be like, just turn them off. Don't click any of these things. Now, to the unstarted, if you were to give them the advice of...
Now, did you give her one that's actually worth value?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I gave her one that's worth quite a bit of money.
I wouldn't have done that.
And so the reason I was like, look, you got to learn. Like, this is like, it's up to you. You want to sell it right now and make the money from it? Do it. If you want to learn from it and hold it, do it. Like, and now it's worth some money. Like, what are you going to do with it? Right? It's like, have some... I wanted to do that as well because then it meant... there was a bit of a care factor as well. It's like, oh, I'll just
like you're putting a gun to her head, giving her a gold bar and being like, okay, here's this gold bar, and you have to wear it now, and like people are gonna come at you and try and steal your gold bar. It's like an economic gun to the head. That's pretty funny.
I mean, it's probably more subdued than that, but it's it is a learning curve. But if you if you were to try and onboard someone to NFTs and you gave them the bit of look, I can only tell you this detail, this is what they are, but you have to learn for yourself. And you got an NFT and went to one of these channels and didn't know about this messaging thing or whatever, you could get scammed immediately. So I've
clicked on a couple of links, which upon reflection, I'm like, oof, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, and so I actually took easily 15, 20 minutes to explain, when you're signing the contract, this is what you should be reading in the contract. Confirm this, confirm that, confirm this. If you get this DM, is it the right URL? Is it that? So I did take 20 minutes or so just in security, and throwing it back to VCon. One of the big takeaways that Gary Vaynerchuk was talking about at the very end, one, positivity, kindness, blah, blah. But the second main one was hey, when you're onboarding people, key on security, key on safety, key on what you're doing, because the space is still so early that there's just going to be a plenty of issues and risks that you're playing around with in a similar way that early day mail was frauded with Nigerian printers and all that. So, but you're going to say come back to cryptocurrencies? Yeah.
So one thing that I'm becoming more and more convinced about is that I should be a bit more careful with my words, and in particular the word cryptocurrency. When I say that, if people at home, please call me out if I do this in an episode, but I only want to use that now for BTC because I think that is the only one that is an actual currency.
Gotcha. Okay.
All the rest, I'm still struggling to find the correct word, but I think an asset is probably the way I want to describe them from now on.
I would probably flip it the other way. To be honest,
What's
like
that?
in my mind, I think I'd flip it. Like, I mean, I think I've actually seen.
Here
things,
comes some DJ
no,
crap.
I've seen it like I've seen it the other way where I've seen it's like everything else cryptocurrency, and then it's just Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is just Bitcoin, and then everything else like cryptocurrency. I've seen people say that.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's useful. When I look at them, and even how do you know what the Howey Test is, for example, in the US? So it's a way that they
HOWE.
I think it's HOWIE. I'm not 100%. I've only ever heard it, never seen it written down. And it's basically the Securities Exchange Commission there, how they determine cryptocurrencies, these blockchains and things, they fall under their, I guess, like overreach, or there's like some little internal battles in the US going on. Basically, there's a way that they use to determine if something is a security or not. And so they have used this in the past for tons of things, for stocks, for just like other trading stuff. If you're trading a Pokemon cards, is that a security as well? And when there's big amounts of money being thrown around, that's when the questions start getting asked. And so basically this test goes something along the lines of, is this being presented as with an expectation of profit? Is there a single individual who is the source of this information? And there's 4 questions, and basically almost everything is yes for the first 3, and then the last one, which is and who is like the controlling entity of this? This is where it's different, because this is where you say it's decentralized. There is no
centralized.
There is
host.
no one email that you can go to. There's no one company, and by sort of these accounts, it's getting to the point where I'm like, okay, yes, they're not securities falling under this test. A lot of them still do, because a lot of them are super centralized, and even the ones that aren't, I still feel they're closer to
centralized and not decentralized.
They're closer to being a stock than they are to being a currency.
Gotcha.
And so, this is why I'm really going to make it an effort for myself to say, okay, cryptocurrency is only Bitcoin. Everything else is a crypto asset. And so like that's sort of my way of distinguishing them now. And the Bitcoin standard, I think, is helping me sort of reaffirm this.
Yeah, I think I disagree with that deeply, because in my mind, I guess the bit that saying like asset, and then the fact that like I would see more Ethereum, more even towards like a tool, like a functionality tool, because of the coding. Same with Cardano, same with a lot of them. Like I'm like, damn, that shouldn't be used as an asset. That should be used as like functional tools, almost to a point, I guess.
Yeah, I would just argue the only thing that I have been using in a way that I use money is Bitcoin. Everything else, no, I'm using it in a completely different way, and it's not exactly not money, but it's I'm not using it like money either. Whereas Bitcoin's the only one where I'm truly, I'm sending it to people in exchange for things.
I agree, perhaps on the cryptocurrency denomination of like Bitcoin for sure. I don't think that I would call Ethereum a crypto asset. I wouldn't call it cryptocurrency either, I guess, in that particular thought process.
Okay, that's
I don't know
fine.
what I would call it, but I think I would more go down the path of just call them like tokens.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm struggling to.
I wouldn't
come
call them
up with
coins.
the
Like
name.
when it's like, initial coin offering and everything was coin. I think more and more I almost try to explain it as like token. It's like it's a token based on this and it does that, on the same principles of the blockchain that was originally created by the standard of Bitcoin. But say Ethereum, you can code on it. Same with Cardano, blah blah blah, etc. Like there's different things that the token itself can do.
Yeah. In any case, the only one I want to say for cryptocurrency is
good.
is
Okay.
Bitcoin.
All right. Let's talk about some fitness, because you were talking about the training.
Yeah. So I'll sort of just come out and say a declaration, maybe. There's been on my mind for a little bit.
Okay.
And
what are you going to declare?
I'm going to declare that I'm going to become a world-class handstander. Okay. And I'm putting it out there for everyone to
That's a hard declaration, because what would you define a world-class handstander?
Well, see, this is where I was going to say, would I ever want to say I'm one of the best handstanders in the world? No. One, because I just don't think I can reach that level. I started too late. So maybe if I'd started 10 years ago, I would have had a shot at it. But I think just like with the age that I started, it would be maybe doable, but I would have to dedicate my whole life to it, and I don't want to do that. But world class, I think, yeah. Look, this is one definition of this would maybe be people would be speechless if they saw me doing something. They're just like, wow, that's fucking crazy.
That is not good enough.
That is 100% good enough.
That is not good enough definition for world class.
Why not?
Because you could easily be at a location where someone hasn't seen that particular thing that makes you local. It makes you, I guess, at the local level, what might be perceived as world class. But it sure as hell doesn't make you world class.
Okay,
If everyone in Germany,
tell me what world class.
No, well, I guess, and the reason I'm asking is because that.
If you don't have an answer for it, you can.
That's true, but I guess
I'm gonna quash your fucking.
My feedback on it was like last year. I'm pretty sure it was last year with the fitness goals that I set. I was like, I want to be top 20% across lots of things, and then top 10% is like the extra push. Like that's like level 3, and that was for a 1 kilometer run. It was for deadlift. It was for squats. It was for this. And even that I found really hard because I was like, okay, worldwide, what's the 80% like calculation, or what makes it you top 20%, or what makes you top 10%? And that, even nailing it down to like the, a 30-year-old, a 28-year-old, or like a range, those numbers just either didn't exist or were just hard to come by. So that I found it difficult to kind of place myself like, oh, would I really be that? And I guess the added complexity here, the added complexity here for you is like, well, what is world class defined as? Is it you're the top 1% handstand, or what? Like, at holding the handstand, I mean, like, it's not handstand walking because it's handstand, but I think saying you're going to be world quality handstands. Is it two-handed handstands and one-handed handstands? Do you just mean like the practice of handstanding? Because then
I think you're looking into this too deep, Juan.
No, I think it's a good thing to look deeply in. So you could say, yeah, I could say I'm a world-class handstander. I just think that you might be in a world of fraught ideas there if you become like really good handstander. Like really, like I would say right now, you would be in the top 100 handstanders in Brisbane. Right?
Yeah.
Probably. That's probably a good reason.
That'd be about right.
But, what if the percentage of population in God knows where, Romania, like 10% do circus training when they're young. And so 10% of them can do like really good handstands. If you go there, would you be a world class, or would you just be above average? And then there'd be some really good freaks out there.
Yeah.
So I go, and there's a challenge as well. And I'm asking you this because I'm also struggling with this, because if you then put like, well, world class is 5 minutes, is there enough data to say that? Like that's world class? Like what makes world class?
Yeah.
It's an internal question.
It's a very impassioned topic.
Yeah,
for you.
I think it's an internal question because I could say world class at a lift or a movement, something like that. But I've found it over the years, like it's so hard to define what that is. Like, do you go age group? Do you go for this species, for this area? Yeah. So
okay, well, I'm going to use world class for me and for all the normal people out there. Okay, and I'll come up with another term for you.
Okay,
that's more defined.
You're going to go with the general consensus of world class. Okay.
And yeah, I just wanted to point out, like, even though I love the podcast, I should say, and I spend a fair chunk of time with them, I spend more time handstanding. I spend way more time handstanding than I do on even like the whole process of this.
Yeah.
I thought it would be almost worthwhile to just point out, for almost like an accountability sake for myself and for others, for those listening who are wondering like, oh, what does Kyrin do? Well, this is what he does all day. He handstands a lot.
Well, and it also, the stretching that you do for handstands, and it's everything.
I include that in there as well. So yeah, it was just I don't know. If I start talking about handstands a lot more, which I will be,
that's why. That's why. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised by it.
Yeah.
I've got a couple more things as well. I just wanted to little probably just pieces.
Do it.
Okay.
Keep talking. I'm getting some water.
Good. Okay. So one piece that I don't know if you ever have used Duolingo Super, or at least like the infinite hearts type of understanding for Duolingo. But
It's called Premium, not Super.
There you go, Duolingo Premium. So
I've been given some of it for a couple of days at a time because I've got a big streak going.
Yeah, like when you reach 50, 100, 150, you get a big amount of
good.
Yeah, it's like 3 days. I don't know if it goes longer the more you do it or whatever it may be. Does it?
I'm not sure. I got a 3-day one recently for when I reached, I think it was 150. So if I get a 4-day one when it's 200, that would make sense maybe, but I don't know if they'd do that.
By the way, it is Duolingo Super.
Super? What?
Yep, it's Duolingo Super.
What are you fucking
mate,
talking
that's
about?
what I'm talking about. Kyrin over here trying to tell me it's not Duolingo Super. I was like, mate, dude, it's Duolingo Super. Unless it's different on desktop or on Android. But if you would like to see, it's Duolingo Super at the top right there.
Actually, maybe it was Plus that I was thinking instead of Premium.
In any case, so
yeah, I get Duolingo. Sorry, not Premium. Duolingo Plus. That's the one that always appears for me.
There you go. Different for Android then. So by the way, the difference between Duolingo Android and Duolingo Apple are actually substantial.
Yeah,
like substantial differences. Wow. I was like, what the hell? Like more than you would assume with an app. But recently I got the 3 days free, and it actually made me worse at language learning than having the 5 hearts.
Okay.
It actually made me worse. And one of the things I guess tried to think about as to why was because I cared less about getting something wrong as opposed to previously when you have only 5 choices to get it wrong. Because if you do, then there are some ways you can get hearts back, but it kind of takes you away from the learning path that you might want to be doing.
Okay.
Whereas
is it hearts as well, or I thought it was gems or lingots? Is what the
hearts?
Okay.
Hearts, yeah.
Okay.
That's definitely Android and
definitely
Android and
yeah.
Apple.
It's called lingots on the desktop version. Yeah.
Lingots. Damn. Yeah. You're talking about the blue things?
They're red.
What in the world? Man, it's a whole host of different things. But at the very least, I just found myself just making easy mistakes. I was thinking less about it because I could allow myself to get things wrong and just retry them again, as opposed to thinking deeper with it. So I don't know if you've experienced that directly with using Duolingo Plus and not Plus, but it also, I guess, pointed out to me that often it's you do want obstacles in your way, or at least some sort of limitations, because it does help out in the process. And Ryan Holiday's, what is it? Obstacles are the way. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Obstacles are the way. Just that mindset, I guess, that having obstacles is not a bad thing, and having some limitations is not a bad thing either. And seeking them out and having them in play can sometimes be actually better than not having them at all. Having like absolutely free play at something like learning languages.
Yeah. Well, when I was chatting with Alexander, when the episode with the conversation will be out in I'm not sure exactly when I'll publish it. It'll be out shortly after this one. Mm-hmm. And he's sort of an artist that has created some really cool NFTs that I like.
Mm-hmm.
On the
CNFTs or NFTs?
I don't know. I don't care.
CNFTs.
They're NFTs.
CNFTs.
I don't know why.
CNFTs.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, as Vegas calls out, Vegas, he called out the different NFTs.
Because they're native tokens, yeah, whatever. Any case, he was saying when he was creating his art that it definitely, we had a huge conversation about adding limitations, even choosing which limitations you want to restrict upon yourself, and that the hardest thing is starting off with a blank canvas. Actually, the page in front of you with nothing on it is harder than having an infinite, everything's already created, and then you have to whittle it down to something that's more manageable.
Yeah,
in a way.
I mean, in a similar sense that you might get an analyst to write up an email for you, and then you as a manager might go and just re-edit it a little bit and then resend it, because you have something to play with as opposed to nothing to play with, and it's just easier to build off something on top.
Yep, could be. Here's a fun one. I've come to the conclusion that I'm somewhat of a nuisance.
Somewhat of a nuisance.
Yeah,
somewhat
of a nuisance. And this is when I was just sort of examining my day the other day, and I was just doing all of these things, and it was a fantastic day, by the way. It was just everything came up, Kyrin. Could have got a fine, didn't get fined, even though the parking inspectors were on the other side of the road.
Got away from them. Yeah,
all of these little minor things, and then I was just looking, and I'm like, man, I'm not a bad person. I don't break the rules, like the big rules, but it's almost like everything I do is like me breaking little mini rules. Particularly like in the gym. Oh Lord, man, all of the minor rules that I break there.
Nice shirt.
I wear a shirt now nowadays, but it's bringing the bag and taking my shoes off. But it's like not becoming like a total nuisance. It's not like I'm
just mini
supersetting and taking up all the machines. It's not like I'm handstanding right in front of people's faces and stuff. Like, no, I'll go and find the spacious area and stuff. But the same thing with like parking. I don't want to pay for parking. Like it grinds me to an inordinate amount, and so I don't pay. And
well, see, I don't think that's a. I mean, I would go more and define that a nuisance would be if you are impacting others, because if you yourself get impacted, then okay, that's on you. Like if you decide to park and get fined for it, well, you pay the penalty for that. But if you don't, then okay, that's what you're doing.
The Spanish as well, so I was with all of these Latinos, and I could see how my Spanish has been a little bit rusty. I haven't been practicing it as much as I was, say, 6 months ago. And so there was plenty of times in the conversations, probably about once every 5 minutes, where I'd go to say something and go, ¿cómo se dice eso in
Spanish?
In Espanol? And it's like, whatever, I'll just chuck the English word in and then continue on with what I was saying. So it's like all these little minor things where I'm just like, just being like a slight nuisance, just getting in people's way a slight much. When I was on the dance floor, I'm just a little bit too tall and my legs are a little bit too long that I was stepping on other people's toes. Now, they were also in my space and it was super jammed. So,
what are you going to do?
Yeah, but it was, I think it was maybe it was just a lot of things on that particular day where I just went, man, I'm kind of annoying. Like the mosquito that doesn't bite you, but it just flies around you a little bit,
Yeah, it's just there every now and again to be like,
it's not being too bad. Like it's not the end of the world, but
I think you're not a nuisance until you directly get told you're a nuisance. Like if someone says like, man, you're just being really annoying, and just like go away, then it's
well, this is what I mean. I'm a minor nuisance. It's like it barely breaches the conscious level. It's only upon maybe reflection where you're like, oh man, that was a bit annoying talking to that guy. Just kept on adding English words in when we're speaking Spanish. That's sort of,
I guess.
That's sort of just simmering below the surface. Like it doesn't erupt, and it's not like, all right, we need to deal with this guy.
Did you find that there was enough social cues that were pointing towards you? They were like, okay, there's some annoyance here amongst the group.
Tiny little ones, but and it could even just be, maybe it was because I was an Australian at what was a Latino event. Like they described it as Latinos crypto,
come along.
Yeah, Latino crypto thing. So even though I was invited to it, so I was 100%.
Yeah, you're fine to be there, but there might have been that.
But, it's a similar sort of thing. The Zumba classes I've been going and the bar classes, BARRE, so sort of the ballet type ones.
Bah.
The
ballet, I don't know.
I'm not sure if there's a French bar. How do you say it in French? How would you say that?
I mean, I don't know.
In any case, I'm the only guy in these groups. There's no other guys joining these things. And once again, it's, I think that they might be kind of happy. It's like, oh, there's a guy coming along. This is kind of a novelty. But it could also be, oh, this is our group. And there are certain things that girls won't say in front of guys and vice versa. And I could be, a slight nuisance. Like I'm slightly becoming once again, it's probably not worth breaching the surface. I'm not going to get told off for coming to these groups. But,
Yeah, I mean, on the opposite side, though, there is a level that you can't let yourself slide down the path of, I'm a nuisance on the world, or I'm a nuisance like that. It's like, no,
I don't think that's it's a funny thing.
You're like existing amongst humanity, so it's like you have of course you can be there, and you can't. Of course you can do that, but I see what you mean. Like you could, you have to be reading enough social cues, I reckon, to be like, okay, is my little nuances here like making people really annoyed?
Yeah, another one, the 12-inch, what do you call those boxes that you jump onto? Just boxes?
Boxes, yeah.
Yeah. The 12, I think it's 12-inch. It says it's got a big 12 on it, so I assume it's 12.
Boxes, yep.
I always grab one of them and I take it over to where I'm handstanding, and then I just sit
Don't
on
do
it.
yourself yet. I do that too.
Yeah, and twice in the last 2 sessions, people have asked me, "Oh, you using that?" And I just cave immediately. I'm like,
Of course,
man. Like, take it. You know, same with all of these things. If people were bring it to my attention, I would cave immediately and just be like, "All right, I'll stop doing that." Like, you don't want me to bring my bag onto the gym floor? Done.
Cool.
I'll put it over there. You know.
But next time you'll bring it
Yeah,
back
of course,
here
of course.
until someone tells me off.
Yeah. So it's like all of these. It's not you know, for the purpose of doing it. It's kind of you know, just slightly selfish on my part, most of these things. But yeah, I just I was sort of examining my day and just went like, man, yeah, maybe if someone was like objectively looking, they'd just be like, man, what's this guy doing? Like, he's always just been slightly annoying.
I was gonna say, like, someone at the gym will be like, man, I've seen this dude bring his bag like for the 30th time this month, and every time he gets sold off, when's he gonna learn that like can't bring his bag here?
Yeah, no, I learned for the most part, it's like, okay, not wearing socks is kind of unacceptable. That seems to be the limit point.
That's the limit point.
Yeah, so I keep socks on all the time now, and that seems to work. I haven't been told off. Yeah, okay. Yeah, per
well,
se.
you gotta push the boundary sometimes. You gotta push the rules to see, you know, where they can stand and where you can have flexibility.
For sure. The last question I wanted to ask you was, I've brought this up quite a few times recently, but it's when you think you want something and then you get it or a taste of it and you go, I didn't want that at all. So for me, that's been philosophy a lot. I thought I wanted philosophy. I want some deep philosophical books. Man, I haven't been enjoying them. I'm going to read one more because my goal was to read 6 this year, and I've read 5 of them. So I'll try and find like.
You had this happen to you
the
last year
most
too.
fun.
You had this happen to you with
when I
had the Gita and
when I was
stuff like that.
Yeah, a little bit. Maybe just setting goals for books is just not a good idea.
Yeah, perhaps.
Who knows? So that happened. What else was it? I was talking about the ability. I always said, I'd love the ability to really have a say on where my taxes go, for example. You know, I'd love to be able to have that individual choice. Yeah, bam, bam, bam. I want to support this thing I don't. Give all the money to, I don't know, the homeless orphans and screw the pensioners. You know, that sort of that ability to make decisions. And then I get a chance to do it with the governance protocols on called Catalyst on Cardano, and it's overwhelming. There's so much stuff. Another one, and this is what I was getting to, was you remember me talking about Eric Voorhees a while ago, and excuse me, there was the ShapeShift brand that he created.
Oh yes, I remember this.
And he was talking about decentralizing a company, which I thought was really cool. And so it's been on my to-do list to look it up for ages, so I finally got around to doing it. And I spent a little bit of time looking at ShapeShift and this Fox token that he's created, and a very similar thing to governance. And in particular, they've got a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. This is one of those things where I'm like, this is fucking stupid. This is so stupid. So I went into it. I went to their forum. I went into their Discord. I poked around. I'm not a rider of things. I'm more of a lurker. I've always been a lurker. And I just looked up the conversations they were having and the type of things they were talking about. On the forum, for example, there's you want some of the interesting posts that are going on there?
Okay, tell me.
Draft 1, moderation renewal July 2022 to December 2022. Draft proposal, fund the product and creative services workstream, July to December 2022.
That sounds right up your alley.
Proposal to re-elect Diggy as product and creative services workstream leader.
Yeah.
Official ideation thread. Proposal to create an alpha version of the open source ShapeShift web app with analytics. Ooh. I looked at this stuff and I went, this is fucking work. Why would anyone voluntarily join this shit? It is meetings. It is... having to carefully craft your words. I went onto a post where a guy was having this big rant, and it was one of those ones where it's, you always have to add in the qualifier, as in, like, I'm not writing this to anyone in particular, but I had some thoughts on some of the recent things that have been going on, et cetera, et cetera. Once again, I want to make clear, I'm not doing, that sort of just endless diatribe of just
Yeah, what
internal
what
politics
to you feels like real work.
Keeping everyone happy and meetings, man. And it's entirely. I was never particularly interested in DAOs per se, but after this,
you're just like, no. Well, actually, that's one thing that's been underwhelming to me has been DAOs, and I think maybe I haven't done enough of my research for it to be honest with you. But the more and more I looked into DAOs, especially that 1 month, I was like fully looking into DAOs. I was just kind of like, I can't see too much of the value here that you can't already do in existing companies. And yeah, it's a decentralized, you can kind of just do that anyway without, like, it almost felt to me like they were just adding crypto to something else just to utilize it. So I was kind of like, meh.
Which I feel a lot of things is happening too, yes.
Yeah, I know that'll continue to happen. That's what happened many years ago for the last 3 or 4 years with AI. There's all these companies stock-wise that just rocketed because they're like AI or they're doing machine learning and they're like, oh, wow, machine learning. 12% up on the share price. Again, it's just words. It's utilizing words like crypto and
there was one here in Brisbane at one of the All Thing Blockchain meetup. And it was these guys who were presenting about they were going to create a ERC20 token and they were going to use this as well as everything was blockchain this and blockchain that. But essentially what they wanted to do was to create incentives for people to use less electricity in peak load hours and use it in different times. So, i.e., instead of putting your dishwasher on immediately after dinner, you change it so that it's on a timer, for example, and it's on at 3 a.m. where there's not as much load.
Yep.
Or during the day and things like this. And they're going on about all these things about, so we're going to create the token, it's going to be decentralized, it's going to do all these things. And it just got to the point where I just felt, man, this seems like something where you just want a centralized one. You just want a company which is, all right, we'll give you some money and we'll partner with these select electricity companies. We'll provide an incentive for you as customers to shift this load, and then this will be beneficial for the energy company, and then that's why, like, how we'll get the money to pay you to do that. Yeah. That sort of just triangle. And I went, that just seems a lot easier than creating a token and trying to explain this to the general public.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, that's, if you have a company and your company has shares, I guess you've got multiple bits of your company being owned by different people.
Yeah.
In a similar way, you can call that decentralized like organization, decentralized ownership, right? Like, you can throw those words around like that, but is it really that? Yeah. And we'll continue to see that. We'll continue to see that.
Yeah, it was just the link from person who wants a slightly cheaper energy bill to
let's use ERC20 tokens.
Yeah, this whole process needs to be decentralized was just too much. It was too much. Just went, nah. And I hope if any of them are listening or watching, I hope your thing works. Like, I really do hope that whatever it is that you're doing works. But I'm not going to touch anything related to that.
The key point as well is, like, in a lot of things, and lots of eminent people have talked about it, like Kevin Rose and a few others. Where if you're decentralized, you're just going to go slow as well. So, if you actually want to deliver something quite quickly and, like, brutally good and whatever else, centralized is actually quite good for that, right? Centralize it because you govern everything, you know which way you're doing, whether it's a product, whether you're delivering a service, whatever it may be, you can deliver that intent really quickly. You do that decentralized, dude, it's going to be super slow because you got all these people having their own inputs to come to a particular thing, which might be what you actually had instead, like, in the mindset first, or maybe it's not, and then you have to pivot. But so decentralized is a good way for it to be.
I don't mind pivot as much anyway.
Oh, you don't? Sorry, there you go, as it changes. But I think there's goods and bads of it. I think having a view of, like, well, everything's going to be decentralized. Like, no, stop. That's dumb. That's as dumb as saying everything should be in the blockchain. No. Yeah. Not everything should be in the blockchain.
Decentralize your loved one.
Exactly.
You've got too few loved ones. You need more.
Decentralized.
The argument for polyamory is finally here. Like, rock solid.
Got to be decentralized.
Like, I need decentralized lovers. Like, I can't. Sorry, babe. I just can't rely on you.
And look, every government in the world.
There's so many modes of failure here.
Every government in the world is going to be like, they'll have a firm conversation to have about decentralization with you. If you're like, I'm decentralized, I'm not giving you any money because I'm just doing my own thing. So it's like, all right, good luck with that.
I've decentralized my identity. I'm not Kyrin at this very moment. Look, decentralization can help everyone. You've got an ideology. You just need some decentralization in there. It allows you to do it. Bam, done. You wanna be a dog on the weekends and be called Schism.
Decentralization.
Decentralized identity. Bam. You're done. We've
That's
solved
how it works. We've solved it. We've digitized everything. Very good. All right. We've probably talked enough. We've chewed your ear.
That was a fun one.
If you've come to the end of this meandering session, thank you very much for listening in. As we talked about a little bit earlier, we are supported in this podcast by you, Me Immortalized, through the Lightning Network, utilizing Podcasting 2.0 apps and getting boostgrams or streaming from you in the form of Satoshis. Now,
after talking shit about crypto right at that end bit, we wouldn't actually mind something.
Actually give us some. And once again, we appreciate how difficult it is to actually just onboard to it. So if you are, actually my call out here is going to be, if you are a member who is already perhaps supporting us, and we got quite a few supporters of the Me Immortalized, of the Me Immortals here.
Check out our monthly goals.
Exactly, monthly goals to see
that.
what that. But if you can, try to help out somebody else, get onboarded. Even if it is just a few sats, or at least trying to show to somebody else, what it may be. I think that will go a big way in the long run of getting more people to be at least savvy of the space, understanding space. I don't actually care at this very moment of, you don't have to be all sending us millions of sats. Nah, it'd be cool to see that we, in some way, help grow the savviness and the experience of people utilizing, the decentralized experience of cryptocurrency, of Bitcoin, and whatever else you want to call everything else.
Yeah,
exactly. So, yes, check out the monthly goals. We'll talk about it a little bit more in that space.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome.
All right, that's it. Me Immortalized. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast today. That's it. One out.
Kyrin out. Bing bong.
Fuck Coffee Club.